All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Babis from dailysoapdish.com. And today we have a very special guest here that we're going to interview. Some of you might have heard over the past few weeks that there's been some allegations made about Big Ed Brown on 90 Day Fiancé from this woman called Lordakeet. That's been a little mysterious because so far that's all we've known about her. And she has a TikTok channel where she's come forward with some allegations about Big Ed. So today we have her here. We're gonna get to know her a little more. We're gonna ask her some questions and to maybe clarify some of the things that she said on TikTok. Hello, Lordakeet. Nice to have you here today. Thank you for doing this interview with me. Um, First off, let's just get into it. Are you able to tell us maybe your name and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so most of you know me as Lordakeet, but my real name is Lorelai Clemens. I live in San Diego. I've been here for almost 10 years. I came here for school. I have a BFA in interior design from the Design Institute of San Diego and a master's in construction management from the New School of Architecture and Design. Actually, Ed and I went to the same schools. We just didn't go at the same time.
So let's get into some of the details about the allegations that you have come forth with. You have said on your TikTok videos that it's is it both sexual harassment and sexual assault?
Yeah, it's both. For about 9 months, I was being harassed by him sexually and also assaulted by him. I don't know if you see my last TikTok or one of my TikToks about uh, an example of the first day that I met him, and that was also assault. So a lot going on with these allegations.
So he put you in an arm lock on the
Yeah,
first day that you met him.
yeah, and
Did
that
did
was just day
he?
one.
That was just day one. Did he do anything else physically um, throughout the 9 months?
So a lot of it was verbal through text and in the office. You know, he was grooming me, and at the time when you're being groomed, it's really hard to know that you're being manipulated. So it progressively got worse. By the end of it, I ended up in the hospital from an incident that happened with him, and I ended up having a lot of health issues from it. Um, this was about 4 years ago, so I've been still trying to heal myself since that incident.
Okay, I see. Now, why do you think that Big Ed targeted you specifically?
So I think Ed has kind of like this MO for going for vulnerable younger women. At the time, I was 24, about the age of Rose. And at that age, you're really trying to figure out what's going on in the world. You're not quite sure how to um, handle situations like this, especially if you weren't taught them when you were younger. And generally, with abusers like Ed, uh, this is kind of like their perfect victim, right? Because they can manipulate them without too much of a work for it, if that makes sense.
But I know in one of your TikTok videos, you said something that you didn't want to be rude. You didn't want to come across as overly rude. Was it something about you being nice that that kind of attracted this behavior, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely as a person try to be kind to everyone, but especially also with having abuse as a child, it's kind of the norm to not know how to stand up for yourself. And also, when you're younger and you're starting a new job and you're trying to impress the owners, you're a little bit more hesitant to stand up for yourself because uh, technically this was my internship when I started, and so I kind of needed it to graduate. So I was scared that I would lose it if I stood up for myself, and B, I honestly wanted to learn everything, and Ed kind of posed as the person that was going to teach me a lot of traits of the business.
I know a lot of people might watch this because it's about Big Ed, and that's that's why they're coming to this video. But I want people to get to know you as well, and your message, because you're trying to provide a very positive message on TikTok. So you said that you decided to come forward because you wanted to help others from suffering the same fate. Now, I just wanted to ask. This kind of goes with the previous question, I guess. But do you feel like Ed would be capable of doing this to other people?
So generally in the cases of sexual harassment, assault, sexual violence, the victim is not usually the first and they're not the last. So with that being said, I'm sure I'm not the first and I'm sure that I'm not the last. Um, so I guess that kind of answers my question of, yeah, I definitely do feel like he has taken advantage of other individuals in the past. And, I don't know what his true motives were on 90 Day Fiancé with Rose, but a lot of people can tell that he's very manipulative and taking a young woman and in a situation that, he's more powerful than she is.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue against that specific fact that Ed is in the power position, even on 90 Day Fiance as well. Let's talk a little bit about the NDA. There's been some discussion about it and what it entails, maybe some confusion as well. So I know that you can't talk specifically about what's inside the NDA. Are you able to give us any information about, is this an NDA between you and Ed, or is this kind of like a workplace type of NDA? Any kind of information about that?
So, as many of you probably know, I worked with Ed. So I think that can leave to the imagination of what kind of NDA this is. Uh, Definitely third party is involved in this NDA. It's not just about Ed and I. With that being said, it's very difficult to kind of describe exactly what kind of NDA it is without going into the details. But I will say that I can describe what happened to me, and that's why I decided to come forward.
So, what was your reaction upon first seeing that the man you're accusing of sexually harassing and assaulting you is now on TV, and his popularity is growing like wildfire?
Um, I mean, initially it was very triggering. I've done a lot of work to heal, but still, the trauma of sexual violence is very hard to get over, and it's oftentimes it will never go away. It just doesn't disappear. So it was very triggering, but I think with that pain, and it sounds kind of weird, with that pain, it made me realize that uh, I don't want this to happen to anyone else. And if I can prevent that from happening, I'm going to. I tried to do it 4 years ago, but no one really knew who Big Ed was. Um, and so I guess that pain kind of turned into motivation to help others. I really felt that it was important that I come forward, even if there was a lot of backlash from people. I mean, there's always going to be people who don't understand. But at the end of the day, it's the victims that, understand it. And generally, people react out of fear, and it's cruel when they act out of fear, or they just don't understand the situation. And that's not my fault. I'm just here to set an example for other victims that even if they feel like they can't come forward, there's always the option, or they have the power, right? They don't have to feel like someone owns their words or their story.
Um, Also, I was just wondering, did you try to reach out to TLC maybe, or did you try to come out with these allegations outside of TikTok?
Yeah, so initially I tried to contact TLC. I actually reached out to a couple of media outlets before posting on TikTok, but there wasn't really any response from anyone. So I decided that I'm going to try and take this into my own hands, and hopefully someone sees this story uh, and can talk about it.
Yeah. Well, we definitely did see the story. And I know that even before you actually named Ed by name, you had some videos where, you were saying that it was very triggering to see the person that, that harassed and assaulted you. And I guess I could feel while watching those videos that you were contemplating about just kind of dropping this whole thing. Eventually you
Yeah.
did, but it was kind of in the making for a while.
Yeah, it definitely was. I believe I found out 3 months ago, and for 2 months, like I said, I had to take into a lot of things uh, and account for a lot of things, not just myself, my husband, and the potential consequences. But I would say it's definitely worth it.
Even with the Me Too movement, do you feel like there is still stigma surrounding sexual violence? And if so, why?
Yeah, I definitely do feel like there's a lot of stigma that surrounds sexual violence. You know, culturally, I think it's very hard to admit that these terrible things happen, and it's really hard to understand why someone would do this to another person. But if you look at other crimes, such as a house robbery, and the robber comes in and threatens to take all the valuables, you don't blame the person who was being robbed, and nor can you claim that the robber said that the victim consented to it, right? So it's kind of the same thing for sexual violence, right? The person didn't ask to be sexually violated. They didn't, they many times they didn't even consent, even if they didn't say anything. They were probably being threatened. So there's a lot of variables surrounding it, and I think a lot of misunderstanding. Still, people don't realize that anyone can be a victim of sexual trauma. It happens a lot more than you really think, and a lot of comments on my TikTok have been, "Oh, she's making it up," but it's very uncommon for victims to make this kind of thing up. And if you do hear them making it up, it's like a very rare occurrence, and that's why you see it, because the news is rare occurrences. So I think until people can really understand and let those stigmas drop, there's always going to be like this fear of coming out and telling your story as a victim.
I think the added pressure or the added burden of coming out as a victim is that you have to expose yourself out there and you have to put yourself up to be criticized, you just have to put yourself out there, and still people want to tear you down and not believe in what happened to you. And probably this probably is a reason why some people don't come out, because it's a pretty gutsy move to just get out there and say, yeah, this happened to me. And it's not a positive thing, but it did. And and then face the criticism and the wrath of a lot of people that are just not willing to believe you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on top of it, there's, I think, part of why it makes it so difficult to come out is because sexual trauma actually is causes more chances of causing PTSD when you have sexual trauma. And so there's a lot of mental anguish that you're dealing with on top of the stigma. And so it makes it very difficult because you're trying to balance yourself, and then people are trying to criticize you. And so, until again the stigma drops, like it won't change, right? Victims are going to be really, really challenged to come out and tell their story.
I agree. Well, I think this is a step in the right direction. So I think this does it for a question. So look, we thank you very much for coming out and doing this interview with us, and kind of putting yourself in a vulnerable position by doing this video and just explaining what happened. We know it's not easy, so we thank you very much for that. If anybody wants to see more of your message, so they can look at you on TikTok. We'll put the information down below on how they can find out more about your message. So I think that does it. So thank you again, Lorelei, for doing this with us. We appreciate you taking the time with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.